right? So I think with Hanahana, it was the first time where I'm like, oh my God, I want to help people. I want to do this. This is like this is a plan. And they're like, no. No.
That would be a no.
But I think it's really about when you're thinking about purpose and what your purpose is, it's just like, I think people have to reflect and people have to be honest with themselves. I mean, like as a teacher, you're always like, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? What do you want to be? And it's like, no, what do you like to do? I think that's one thing.
Get your life, 2020, get with it. What are you doing? What else are you going to do except get your life? Abena Boamah is a Ghanaian American creative entrepreneur, mental health advocate, and founder of Hanahana Beauty. Driven by curating learning experiences strategically, Abena has been unapologetic about her identities through all forms of her work. She focuses on showcasing stories of Black women globally through visual storytelling as an educational and therapeutic approach, especially working with marginalized groups from students to adults. Abena has worked with brands like TEDx To-Do, Chase Bank, Nike, Apple, Bon Appetit, The Wing, Refinery 29, Glossier, and more. Her skills extend to public speaking, photography, video, plus BTS creative direction, content creation, and modeling. Join me as I get up close and personal with one of my favorite people in the world to discuss clarity of purpose and how to go for what you want. Hi, Abena. Hey, friend.
Hello. Thanks for having me over.
Of course, anytime. I must say, I met you.
Oh my God, 2017.
It was 3 years ago.
Yeah. Oh my God. Wow.
Yes.
My first day that I came back.
You had just arrived.
Like flew in. It was someone's going away party.
It was.
Melissa.
Yes.
I don't know why I just remember that name, but I just did.
Yes.
Melissa.
Shout out to Melissa if you're watching this. Just shout outs. We met at someone's going away party. We both didn't know many people there.
Yeah.
I was there on an invite of a friend, and you were there as well, and we all kind of just mingled. And I remember another mutual friend was like, "Oh, you should talk to her. She has this beauty brand, and she's working." With this amazing brand called Black Girl in Om, who shout outs to Lauren and Lauren. Dion. Yeah. And I was like, oh, it immediately piqued my interest because I had been following Black Girl in Om, mostly because I was in sort of working out how to launch my own platform that specifically was talking about focused on self-care.
Yeah.
Specifically in modern African women and what have you. So Black Girl in Om was on my radar.
Yeah.
So immediately my ears were like, wait, who's this girl who works with this? You know, because you don't hear that in Ghana often, that someone is working with Black Girl in Om. And then we started, and I asked you, I said, so tell me more. I heard about this like beauty brand. What are you doing? What is that?
And then we went like on a date to Starbucks.
And then we had a date. We had a date to Starbucks, which was amazing.
Yeah, no, I totally remember that. It was so cool too, I think for me, like coming back. That was a trip that I came back. It was like a summer, and it was the first time I was going to Tamale. Yeah. And so like my first 2 weeks, I just kicked it in Accra and in Kumasi, I think. And it was just so chill. And I was with my cousin Nana, and like, shout out to Nana. Like literally love him. Shout out to my whole fam.
Just
like
love everybody.
It's so good. You know what? It's so nice to be home. Like, and have multiple homes. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think that trip was so great because it was like, I met a lot of people that I'm still very close with, or even if I'm not close with, like I talk to every day, I know that if like, I need to hit you up for something or like something happens, I can, you know. Yeah. So.
That's wonderful. Yeah. So I want to take it back to sort of our touch point, which is like your brand and also my brand, but your brand specifically. Tell us more about what is today Hanahana Beauty.
Yes. Okay, so Hanahana Beauty is an all-natural skincare and wellness brand. And our whole entire vision is about what does it look like to disrupt the beauty industry. And so with our mission, it's like, how are we empowering Black women globally through creating ways of sustainability via income and healthcare for the producers that we work with. Specifically at this end, shea butter producers, but we're growing to other producers that we're working with because our ingredients list is, has grown. So we do look at that through sustainability, transparency, and access, and how we create those paths from the producer to the consumer side. So from our actual product, like natural products, whatever, all those good, clean, the keywords, but it is all natural ingredients. And not only just like having those products, but actually educating people about what is in it, how you can use it, even if you can't afford our product, maybe how you can utilize those different ingredients at home, or how you can make things at home, or all those types of things. We do that through social and physical curations. So then we have our physical curations, which is like our yoga and chill, which you were in one of our first ones. Yeah, you were actually our first one.
Oh.
Yeah, I think you're our first yoga teacher.
So I'm part of Hanahana history.
Yes.
That is.
You are.
I'm honored.
Yeah, you're a part of Hanahana history. That was our first yoga and chill, which is so crazy because I think we only had like 6 people, or like 8 or 6 people come to it.
And it was really an amazing moment. And I remember specifically it was right on the heels of your photo exhibition about the women in the Catariga co-op. And I remember specifically that moment, I think I just finished yoga teacher training.
Yes.
And for me,
yoga,
yoga teacher training was so important because it was for me, it was like my first step towards what I thought was sort of my greater vision and my greater sort of like purpose.
Oh my God, I remember that like so clearly right now, because you had just finished and you were telling me about it. And I was like, oh yeah, do you want to be the yoga teacher then? And you're like, okay, why not? I don't know.
An amazing time.
Yeah, and I mean, yoga and chill has turned out to be like one of my favorite curations to do. And it's, I mean, for the people, it's a yoga class, a curated yoga class, which is theme. With any city that we do it in, we make sure to have the yoga teacher come from that city. And then the second half of the chill portion is curating a space of chill that Black women globally would want, or for the women that are going to be there. So I think the first one we did was just like talking about skincare and like food. And now we've been able to expand it. Like we've done partnerships with the Hoxton Hotel, where it's like we make sure there's like a herbalist there, and we have like an astrologist there, or like we'll do herbal blends and like learning about like how to use herbs at home versus like in your teas versus smoke versus blah, 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 like all these different things. We do mass bars, so we carry every moment for that. And it's just so fun to be able to have these like physical curations or learning experiences. And that's what we try to do. So we have that. We have our conversations one. We have a lot of different things. And then we also have our Hanahana Healthcare, which is our Circle of Care initiative, which is being able to provide like sustainable income through our purchasing of products, ingredients at a higher price, twice the price of what they ask, and then also being able to provide healthcare and health education as like our own insurance, So we do two healthcare days a year, which is a checkup for all of the women in the cooperative that we work with, including a doctor's visit and medication, all in one. And like now it's grown so much, and this isn't I always try to tell people that like it's not just me being like, hey, this is what needs to happen. All of these things happen, especially with the women, through conversation about what they need, because you could easily come and be like, they need money, they need this, they need that, and it's like, actually this is what they need, and this is how. And that conversation goes from like, what do you need, or what needs to be provided, and then what can we do at this time, and who can we like connect and create access. So
someone watching this episode, seeing both of us talk, and we're like, okay, so like she has this really, it is a healthcare company, and if you think about it, but she has this amazing skincare brand that is sort of disrupting sort of how we do supply chain in big business or business in general. And she does this with really like a people-centered, driven
Yeah.
approach, seeing everybody as the client.
Yeah.
Like it's end to end, you know, thinking about supply chain and taking care of every piece of supply chain from a place of wellness and connectivity and fairness. And somebody maybe watching this and thinking, whoa, that's just so much, that's so many pieces, right?
Yeah.
How does this really connect with like, what's the point?
Yeah. I mean, for me, like, I feel like my purpose is about creating spaces for education.
Yeah.
Like, where people feel comfortable to learn either about themselves or other people, right?
Yeah.
Like, I want to be able, like, in any type of situation that I'm in, if I'm being my authentic self, I want it to be able to inspire you in a sense to be your authentic self.
Love it.
Right?
Love it.
Yeah. So like, and so I think for me, it all comes together because when I started Hanahana, I mean, you know, I was teaching, I was in grad school, like finishing my master's. I was already doing photography stuff and like model, like all those things were already happening for me. And then it was like, I was making shea at home, right? And then it was like, okay, this shea's actually really good and people really want it and they want to buy it. So if I'm going to start a business, and that was my thing, because I've never been like about like beauty or like consumer, like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like I've kind of always been like the opposite end of those things. Right. But at the same time, like, even when I talk to my dad and like talk to my parents and like, when I think back as a kid, like I was always selling and mixing and making something to try to get a buck or finesse away. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, I can do that. You can give me this for this. Or like, oh, I learned how to play piano. Yeah, always. Like, I played piano for over like 15 years. And my first job was being a piano teacher. Like, I never liked working under people unless it was to benefit other people. And I think I really realized that out of my first job, out of college, and then teaching. I was like, okay, like, I really like teaching people. Like, I love talking to people. I love this, but I hate the system and the place and the administration. And I actually don't like working for people. And specifically, I don't like working for white people. Like, seriously, do you know what I mean? Like, that was like, it was one of those things where I was like, like, I love this. I'm working with people of color. I'm working with students. But the people that are really like, am I allowed to cuss on here? I don't know if I'm allowed to. Yeah. The people that are kind of like, you know, fucking this up a bit or like, you know, making this very difficult. Not of the community. Are those not of the community? And I want to work within the community and be a part of the community. So with Hanahana, it just made sense. Like, the ingredients, where we're getting our ingredients from, if they don't give us ingredients, we can't have a product. So you have to benefit and be able to create sustainable ways for living for the community, just as much as yourself.
So I found this really interesting. I want to move the conversation towards more talking about clarity of purpose.
Yeah.
Because I think there's this idea, really, I mean, one could even say misconception.
Yeah.
That once you sort of know your purpose, it's like, it's late.
It's like, yay!
It's like, oh, you know, like,
dun, 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 dun.
Right, like baby Jesus, like the
it's just like a light shines, your aura changes, and you're like, my purpose
is. But I like what you said. It was like, what I'm hearing is a bit of like a breadcrumb situation.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, okay, I know how to make things.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna make things. Oh, I actually like to teach people.
Yeah. Or like, I like to be in front of cameras.
I like to be in front of a camera.
Yeah. I'm actually like, I feel very confident talking to people, like in my voice. Right. But I definitely feel like it took me, like, I've done so many different things in my life. Right? Like, you know what I mean? But then when you reflect back and take time to reflect back on all the things you did, it kind of all makes sense though. Yeah. You're like, wow, that makes so much, like, even from wellness, right? Like, we specifically say like skincare and wellness brand because of the healthcare stuff, but because what wellness looks like. Mental health is wellness. Like, and that's not just from me being a therapist, but like even as a high schooler, like I was doing athletics and like all these things that, you know, when I'm at this point in my life, I look around and I'm like, oh my gosh, I had so many opportunities, so much access. And part of my purpose of my understanding is, how do you create access for others. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's like, that can be anyone's purpose. Someone might say that way that they're reliving that purpose or, living it out is through owning a skincare line. Yeah. And it could just be a skincare line that's just all about giving you good skincare. That could be it,
I always say that I believe that our highest purpose is love. It's either love for self, love for others, love for humanity, love for the planet, love for animals, just love. I believe our highest purpose is love, our love for our
to
connection
generate
with a higher purpose, a higher being, and our connection with ourselves, which really is like evidence of you having a relationship with God.
Yeah.
How you relate with others.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So,
I think so. I believe.
Yeah. So I listened to a really great podcast between Oprah and Paulo Coelho, The Alchemist.
Yes.
Where Oprah asked them, what do you believe, sort of like, when we are all done, what do you believe happens, like if there is a heaven or whatever?
Yeah.
And he said he really only believes that the number one thing that we're at, I thought Oprah or Paulo Coelho said this, I don't remember, but in the podcast, it was mentioned that really at the end of it all, what we're going to be asked is, did you love enough?
I think so.
Because you can, and Oprah said that, she always spoke well. She was a great journalist. But when she realized that she could be using her platform to help people and teach, it changes everything.
Changes everything.
So how much of purpose is beyond what you can actually do? I think what I always try to tell people when they say, I want to know my purpose. I want to know what I should do. It's not just about
what you do.
The hands, right?
Yeah,
it's
it's what you give away. Also, it's what you like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like as a teacher, you're always like, what do you want to be? What do you want to be? What do you want to be? And it's like, no, what do you like to do? I think that's one thing, because I think sometimes
people... And what would you be willing to freely give?
Exactly. Like, what can you give? Like, what can you offer? Yeah. But I think it's like, what do you like to do? Because some people don't really know their purpose. Like, and I even think about how we move in Ghana. No one's going around saying, like, your goal in life is to live your purpose. Like, no one's asking you really, like, what do you want to do? Like, it's like, this is what you're going to do. This is what you should do. This is what people have done. So when you're like...
This is the formula.
Yeah, this is the formula. Yeah. We know how we move. And I feel like even my parents were like, well, the formula we know is this too. So
Lawyer,
this is a type of, luckily for me, my dad was a mathematician, which is not exactly the formula for most Ghanaians, but I mean, you're smart, so it works out.
Do something.
You can do whatever with it. So for him, like business, money, those types of things, he saw that as a really easy way of like understand. But he's also like, are you really gonna do all this? Like, you know what I mean? But now it's a very different topic. But I think it's really about when you're thinking about purpose and what your purpose is. It's just like, I think people have to reflect and people have to be honest with themselves. Like, I feel like I talk about this all the time, but like, I swear to you, like when I would sit in therapy with even me as talking to my therapist or me talking to my clients, it's about, can you be honest with yourself?
Ooh.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's when you really are able to find your purpose. Yeah. And I feel like I took from 2017 to 2018, 2016, 2018. I was celibate during that year, or almost those 2 years, and I felt like I got to practice being honest with myself. To the point being alone, because I was alone a lot more. I had to deal with my traumas, with me. So like, because I was being so honest with myself and being like, nah, I don't like this. Oh, this is how this makes me feel, or whatever. By the time I was in a state where I did launch Hanahana to the maximum that I did, and like how it was growing, it was so much easier for me to move in an honest way, because once you're honest with yourself, if someone's giving you an option that you know is not for you, I mean, I'm not hurting your feelings if I say no anymore. I'm like, I know that if I say yes, I'm hurting me. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think being honest with yourself definitely has to do with about purpose, because that's when you can actually find fully what your purpose is. And then looking at, what do you like? Like, what can you give? What can you do better in? What, because I think sometimes people are like, purpose, That's it. I'm going to be this person.
Yeah.
Then do your research. Get better at it. Every day you need to be better. Like, and the thing is that when you when you fight against following through with your purpose, you will always be unhappy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you will always be unhappy. Because, like, even as tough as all this, I'm not saying everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. Like, not at all. I do not believe that. I do not believe that at all. But I will have to say, I am way happier in this position of what I'm doing than I've ever been in any situation. Even if I'm low, even if I'm depressed, even if I have any of those things, I know that the levels that I am at, the moments of joy that I'm able to create, like daily, are so much more different than when I was teaching.
I like the point where you made that the moments of joy you are able to create, because there seems to be a lot of
Seeking of happiness.
Yes, or right. So you rolled your eyes on that, and I want to talk about that because I think there's many schools of thought on joy and happiness.
Yeah,
there's a school of thought that you shouldn't seek happiness. It's you should seek purpose or a grander purpose, and it'll find you. And then there are people who actually don't believe that happiness is sort of achievable, or
I've heard that too.
It's achievable and therefore should not be sought, and therefore should not.
That sounds like my dad.
Right. So, like, what's your take on sort of?
So it was so crazy. I was just like answering a question. Like someone was like, success or happiness? And I was like,
why is it binary?
I know. I was like, well, I feel like when I'm successful, I'm happy. So I want to be successful so I can also be happy too. But I honestly feel like I had to realize I cannot strive for happiness. Do you know what I mean? Like, as someone personally, I have a lot of anxiety. Like, I have to go through moments of depression. But because I'm very high functioning, you can't really, like, people can't really tell at all. Like, unless I'm telling you this or you know me personally. So sometimes when you are very anxious or you are depressed or you have these things, you're like, I need to be happy. I just want to be happy. I just want to be. And it's like,
when will I get out of this?
Yeah, when will I get? Yeah, like, can I get happy? Like, I want to. But it's like, nah. Like, you need to seek. When I started to seek more moments of joy, like every day, what are the things that I know will make me feel good or be happy, right? Or like those types of moments. That's when I started living a lot differently. Because I'm okay with understanding that there's going to be downs and lows. And I think sometimes when you're striving for full happiness, you're like, I'm not reaching it because there's lows.
The key word to that is striving, right? And it's really the conversation between, the connection or the relationship between joy, happiness, success, purpose.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of has their own take on it.
Exactly.
Everybody kind of has what they believe sort of like works. But I really believe that lived experience is the only thing that will really show you the way. Like actually doing things.
Yeah, you have to, like, you can't, like, the thing is, like, we're so focused on being comfortable sometimes that we don't understand, like, it's that after the uncomfortable is when, like, things just open up. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, that's when things just, like, because you've learned when you're in a space of feeling uncomfortable, you have to find a way out, right? Like, unless you want to be uncomfortable forever. So it's like, sometimes I think we're like, I don't want to be in this uncomfortable space. I don't want to be, but it's like, okay, you're in this space right now and it is uncomfortable. So what can you do?
It's a shift.
It's transition.
Transition.
I hate transitions. I used to hate transitions so much, but now I'm just like, my life is a transition
all the time. I feel like that too sometimes, where I was just, talking to my team last week. Oh, I don't know who was talking to me. I was talking to myself, but I was just saying how, I'm in the process of starting this hair care. Well, I've started a hair care brand and I'm in the process of really building it. And I was like, man, space of like building an inventory, like doing all this, it feels like drudgery, but it's necessary, right?
It's a part of the process. And it's like, I look at now running Hanahana for 3 years, right? 3 years in March. Like, we're at a whole different level than I thought we would be, but there's there's also a whole nother level that I know we're going to be at. Do you know what I mean?
And I mean, can you imagine? I can't imagine, or I mean, I'm not in your brain, but I can't imagine when you started that you fully understood or fully grasped sort of the tentacles.
You know what? There was a moment when I came back to Ghana. I remember I was with my cousin Nana, and I had just came back from Tamale, and I was telling him about I was like, "Ooh, I had so much energy because I met up with you after. Right?
Yes,
I think that's when we met up.
I remember this trip you were with Jessica.
No, that was even after.
That was after.
That was even after.
You went on the initial trip.
Yeah, this was all by
and
myself.
I remember the energy.
Oh my God, because I was just like, the fuck? Like literally, I was just like, so there are women that make all of this, everything by hand. Some have a little machinery, and you're telling me that people, they've never even used the bomb. They didn't even know. Yeah. They're like, what is this? What is this? Or like they're living in conditions. I'm not saying that huts and all these stuff are like negative or bad conditions, but running water, electricity, which they need for the machinery, basic healthcare, like basic food, these things that are basic.
Or even a piece of the pie, right?
That was the thing. The numbers to me was what, I'm a number, I studied math, that was what I taught. The numbers to me was crazy because at that time, I think 3 years ago, people were selling shea. A kilo was like 4 cities and 39 cents, and 39 pesos. And
you're selling it at
peanuts. I bought 100 kilos or whatever. It was so cheap, and I was just I felt so uncomfortable buying it.
At that price.
I felt so uncomfortable. Yeah. I felt so uncomfortable. And at the same time though, it was something that everyone knew. Cause I remember my mom was like, oh, you're gonna get it so cheap. It's gonna be, and to make sure it's so cheap. Cause that's what you want. Yeah, make sure you get good shea. You don't have to spend a lot. But then I was like, I just sat here.
But actually I should spend a lot.
Yeah, I was like, I just spent 3 days with these women. They've taught me how to make shea. They've let me in their space, in their houses, in their homes, in their workspace to take time to teach me the process. They didn't have to do that. So I should pay them for that too. 2, they just spent all these hours to make this, and this is the only amount they're gonna get. And shea industry is what, 3.5 billion now? The net worth?
Yeah, the net worth. It's into the multi-billions.
It's multi-billions. Mm-hmm. And the predicted is only growing and more.
Oh, more and more.
And it just seemed like that trip was just one of those things where I was like, this is way bigger than me. That was the first time I think I was like, this is way bigger than me. Because definitely when I started Hanahana, I was like, I'm just gonna sell this. I know it's good. I'm gonna get some money so I can get flights to Ghana back and forth a little bit. And just learn about the women. That was it. I just wanted to learn about the women.
But little did you know, and I feel like this theme keeps coming up. That I think people have this idea that the purpose just boom finds you. But what I'm hearing is that continuous space making to explore, to feel, to experience, to be vulnerable, to be honest.
Because how else would you? If I would have listened, I always tell my mom. If I would have listened to my mom, I would have never went to Tamale. I would have never had my own. The thing that separates me from any other shea company, unless you have, is the relationship with the women. And that's not, I'm not saying that buff, that type of thing, but that I didn't even realize how, most people are like, oh, you actually know the women? You actually go there and you talk and work, because most people don't have time for that. You really don't. Who's trying to go up to Tamale all the time and do that? Unless you care, or you have someone else do it maybe, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Most people are trying to find ethical shea and all those things, especially in the States too. They'll just organic, blah, 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 it doesn't matter. But it's why not know the story of where your sheas come from? Because I'm sure if you trace that back, you're gonna be affected by the people that are making it.
So what your story reminds me, when Chef Binta was here, we had this conversation about fonio.
Yeah.
And, she being Fulani and this being their food, she said that the women up north are still, they don't own farms, but they're processing it. Mm-hmm. And they're still processing it as they would have 100, 200, 300, 500 years
there's
ago.
still shea makers crushing nuts with the
right,
rocks.
by hand. And there's literally really simple machinery and simple contraptions. It's just a tiny bit of value added that can go back to these communities if they're able to build this themselves, right? So the fact that like you see that as the opportunity and that's the work that you're doing, I just want to really reiterate the point that this is an incredible amount of vulnerability that it takes to open yourself up to do that.
You know what? And it really does, especially when we get into the side of actual business and funding and like pitching your ideas and having people like say whatever and like don't think that they think what your idea is too big for you to complete. Oh my. This past year, I tell people, I don't think I've heard more no's this year than, like
And the year just started.
2019. I've only got one no so far.
Right.
But, like, I was like a kid that, I swear to God, I didn't get rejected.
That will stop a lot of people.
I didn't like college, even applying to, I got into all my colleges, grad school, I swear the only people that would reject me was like black men when it came to like dating or something. That's a whole nother story. But they love me now, so. No, but you know what I mean? Like, I just like experiencing rejection.
I know what you mean.
It was not my thing. One, because I feel like I go for what I know I'm good at. And if I'm not good at it, I'm gonna get good at it. That's like my mentality. It's like, if I'm good at it, I'm gonna get better. If I'm not good and I want to be good, I'll do it. If I'm not good at it and I don't wanna do it, it's not for me, it's fine, right? So I think with Hanahana, it was the first time where I'm like, oh my God, I wanna help people, I wanna do this. This is a plan, and they're like, no. No.
That would be a no.
You want 50,000 for what? Like you want, so tell me this number, and I'm like, okay, I have to go.
For a bunch of women who don't have an education.
Yeah, you just want to get
business.
Yeah, but I'm like, they're running the business that you have allowed. Like, do you know what I mean? So following your purpose is a lot of vulnerability because there's a sense of like you have to allow people to be in your space and in your head and understand.
And that is difficult. And it's okay to scale in every direction. I tell people that, I've had this conversation many, many times with friends who are much smarter than me. And my background is in health and development. And having these conversations about how, like, doing these interventions and like everybody knows it's not working, but being so afraid to scale it back and scale down, that there's nothing wrong with scaling down. Like if you're watching this and you're like, well, I'm building something, it's not really working, there's nothing wrong with deconstruct.
Yeah, do you know there's Google literally pays people to make mistakes, to fail.
Literally
like there are people out there getting paid to fail. And you're out here talking about, I'm not about to do this because it's gonna, if you don't fail, how can you actually learn and grow and win? Like, how do you know how to?
But it's also how you define failure. Because I literally took that term, failure for me would be doing nothing. Failure for me would be not going for it.
Laziness. Like not going for it.
Not going for it. Or stopping.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, that's a very different way. Yes, then that is a different, you don't want to fail in that sense.
Yeah, but I'm not failing.
But you're not failing.
As long as I'm moving, I'm not failing.
Exactly. That's how I see it. I think every experience is a learning experience. I know I say that. I swear if anyone is watching this that like watches any of my stuff, it sounds very cliche, but I swear to God, every experience can be a learning experience if you allow it to. And this is like why I talk to people about anxiety all the time, because like anxiety disables your level of learning. Social anxiety, right? If you think of social anxiety is not being able to socialize. When you are in a group, if I allowed my social anxiety to take over the way that I know it could, we would have never met that day.
Yeah.
we would have never met that day. And that experience would have never happened.
The irony of that moment is that we're both like socially anxious people, literally sitting right next to each other, but like looking straight ahead. Because we both have like mild social anxiety. And we were like, literally sitting next to him, we were like.
And I think Misha was the one that was like, wait, I think I heard on you, like you were in Black Girl No, and don't you guys.
Like y'all are like.
Yeah, you guys should talk to. Yeah.
Like, you should.
Everyone kept that. I was like, Oh, hey girl.
Sorry, like, I'm sort of an anxious.
I was like, I'm so awkward.
What I found really interesting, and The Alchemist specifically, is that he hits a few obstacles, but somehow still finds his way back on track. I think that's a very important point, because I think people have this idea that if I find my purpose, then it can't be hard. Then there are no new lessons to learn. Yeah. There are no obstacles. Yeah. Most of us will be on the journey and quit because of obstacles.
Yes. Oh, yes.
Some of us will make it past the obstacles, but then be too tired to continue because we don't seek what they call sort of in the hero's journey, the oracle, or just a mentor.
That's what I was gonna say. It's a mentor, having someone
who's
guide you and, like, nurture you and like help, like
who's been there, somebody who's
been in those spaces.
Yes, who's been through the journey and says, "Come, I will teach you." Yeah. And so there are many of us who will never start. There's some of us who will start and stop after some obstacles. And there's some of us who will start, get through the obstacles, but literally either not be vulnerable enough to be taught by an older person who's sort of been through the process, someone who's more experienced, and therefore miss out on some very important lessons. And I wanted to sort of like, to your point about receiving and accepting feedback, right? That's all part of the idea of mentorship. Yeah. And you can seek mentors, yes, like in physical people, but also talk me through a little bit more, sort of like, do you have a mentor? Yeah. How do you seek mentorship? Do you have a physical mentor? Or is it like, for me, like I see Oprah as my mentor, and I just sort of like, every now and then I listen to her podcast and be like, what is she talking about? And then try to like, I follow Marie Forleo, I follow a few people, and I see all these books that I read. I see Paulo Coelho, all these people as like mentors of some sort. Yeah. And then I have like physical mentors, like very close to my father, who's been building business for 50 years. And so there's those pieces, my older siblings, there's just people who come along your way. Many women in my life as well. Yeah. So like, what's your journey around mentors and mentorship? And
I definitely have a lot of mentors. Lauren, I would say, was one of my first, Lauren Ash, so the founder and CEO of Black Girl Gnome. And like, literally, she's like I've never had a big sister. Yeah. I didn't have big cousins. Only had a big,
Lauren.
Yeah, literally love her so much. I would say Lauren was one of my first mentors in the space of this creative entrepreneurship. And she was like, I know they always say like, don't go ask someone to be your mentor. They always say that. Don't. People say that all the time. Don't ask. Like, I swear to God, I was watching something. I'm sorry I keep on saying I swear to God too, but I swear that I was watching something that was like, when you something, don't, like social media people, don't ask them to be your mentors. Which, I mean, I totally understand. But I think I had asked her to be my mentor, or I had told her I was looking for a mentor. And she didn't answer my question. But then she became my mentor. Like that's, if something is going on, I know I can just send her a voice note and it's fine. My parents are mentors to me. My dad is definitely a mentor. Sometimes it's difficult he wants to be a mentor to me and I don't allow him to.
Like, I'm not ready for this.
Yeah. And now I am though. I definitely am. My dad is very smart when it comes to finances and math and all those things, and it's just been so helpful. I now have a board of advisors for Hanahana. So those are my mentors, and that's been so helpful. I'm in like this space, I feel like when I turned 28, I had hit a lot of the accomplishments that I wanted to hit. Do you know what I mean? So then I had to reevaluate what I wanted to do.
Stay vulnerable.
Yeah, and that's what I have to. I think I'm just trying to stay vulnerable, like about partnerships, about all those things, about building a company. Like I'm really in this space where I'm like, I want to be able to balance. Like I'm really trying to find balance, but I also understand and know that my priority right now is building my business. Yes. But at the same time, I don't want that to overshadow everything else that I want to also be able to prioritize.
We've talked about so much. We talked about the clarity of purpose, seeing purpose as sort of like this breadcrumb. Yeah. Do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, here a little, there a little. Yeah. And just
taking it step by step.
I think there's a lot. I grew up in a super Christian home. I grew up as a church kid. So a lot of things I think through in sort of Bible verses. Yeah. I think there's a specific Bible verse that talks about this. precept after precept, line after line, here a little, there a little. That's how you build something. That's even how you even chase your dreams.
Yeah.
It's that sort of like you can breadcrumb sort of like your pieces in your timeline, and it's okay. So we've talked about that. Doing as a means of clarity. You can't sit and think, and clarity doesn't necessarily just come from thinking it through. Doing is where clarity comes from, and also mentorship. But I wanted to know if there was one last thing that you wanted to leave with those viewing and saying, okay, I've heard all of this. I get it. I get this whole purpose thing. But then what next? How do I
feel like,
this?
I want to talk about manifestation, but not in the way that people usually talk about it, of like, think about it, manifest. And it comes through. I feel like sometimes when we talk about manifestation, we don't talk about the work that goes into it. And I think that's the thing, is like, it's work to even manifest. Like, take the time to write down what you want. Like, if we're going to visualize it, if we're talking about the Bible verses, Matthew 7:7, literally ask and you receive. Like, not like, write down what you want.
Habakkuk.
Like, literally write down the vision. Write down the vision and write down the steps. Like, write down your intentions. Like, I think if you're not a business owner or entrepreneur, but one thing, if you are an entrepreneur, like, you really have to be a better person to be a better entrepreneur.
I agree.
Like, because all those things, those flaws that you have, will show up in your business.
In a heightened form.
In a very heightened form.
Because there's more to like this.
Oh my gosh, very high. Because everyone, your team, will talk about how you communicate is trash, how all those things, it's going to show up. So I think it's like understanding the fact of hard work with manifestation. Like, a practice that I like to do is obviously, like, I like writing my new moon intentions. I see that as goal setting. And I see it as prayer writing too. Like, I feel like I've definitely grown so much closer spiritually, but also just to God, like, and understanding. But it's like writing my new moon intentions, looking at them, and then most of the time it's about like what I want to get done in the month or whatever. It's like actually what are the steps that I need to get done, and actually doing those things, like putting yourself in those places, Like, I think last year, I was able to do my first TED Talk, and I think some people will be like, oh my God, it just came out of nowhere. Nah. I wrote that down, but it like happened. It happened, but it was like so many things that I had to put myself in those spaces.
And accept and agree.
And accept and agree, and like even give myself the opportunity to be vulnerable, to take that opportunity in. You know what I mean? So I think it's about like, you might not know exactly what your purpose is right now. You might not be able to put it exactly word to word of what it is. But I think you know what you like to do. I think you know what you don't like. I think you know what you're good at. I think you know what you don't like, but you could be good at. And you could like, but maybe you're not good at it, or you don't like to do it. And that doesn't mean that you don't have to do it. There's a lot of things I don't like to do, but I have to do, right? So I have to make it fun. And I think like manifestation is something like vision, planning, all those things. It's hard work. It's work. It's work, and it's self-work. And I think that's the thing, is like sometimes people are just so worried and understanding of like, how do I get to this? How do I get to this? How do I get to this? But it's like, a lot of people that you guys see out here, people are really working on themselves. Like, I am working on myself every day.
I think people have this idea that I just work with my hands, but people are working heart to hand.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's really a heart to hand sort of thing. Taking what's in here, the work that's in here, and creating an experience with your hands that reflects what the heart is saying, the heart is doing. So on that note, I just want to make a comment about just what a beautiful imagery this is to, Ghanaian American, Ghana. I'm Ghanaian.
Ghana.
Two Ghana girls sitting on this couch, two dark-skinned women disrupting the space of health, wellness,
Yes.
and beauty
I love
together.
it. I'm so happy. I'm so excited.
For you,
Thank
for
you.
us.
I'm excited for us. Yeah.
And what this moment really represents.
Yeah.
And I know that next week, next year, maybe in a decade, we'll look back and say, oh, this moment triggered something that we weren't even ready to completely receive. So I just want to say thank you for getting vulnerable, because this moment is bigger than both of us.
Yeah.
So thank you once again.
Thank you.
If you like this conversation, go ahead and like it. Leave a comment so you can be part of the discussion. And thank you so much. Don't forget, of course, to subscribe. Until next time, I'm Hanahana Beauty, and always I'm here to help you find your authentic self. Yay!